Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Hatha practice. Before we get started, a bolster, soft block, and a couple hard blocks might be handy today, and anything else that you'd like to practice with. I'll invite you to get started on the back, and if you'd like to set up, I'm going to use the bolster under the spine. If you're using a pillow or something, and if it's quite plump, then you might also take your soft block just at the base, and this will make it a little less steep for the low back. And then you can have your blocks kind of at the other end, so if you want to do butterfly legs, you can rest them. So take your time to sit yourself up. And if you need to use your props a little differently, or if there's anything else that you want to adjust, then go for it. And taking your time to play around until you find a shape that feels steady and comfortable. Somewhere that you can feel the body start to settle in. The muscles start to soften. If any part of the body feels a little fidgety here, you could also find some movement. And then whenever you're ready, come and find your stillness. And find a comfortable spot for the arms. And if for any reason the shape starts to feel uncomfortable at some point, you can shift it or you can add an extra support. If it feels okay to close down the eyes, then go for it. And start to check in here. Notice if the mind has started to wander here. See if you can gently guide your attention back to your body. And start to notice your breath. Gently inviting the breath to start to deepen. With each inhale, finding a sense of space in the body. With each exhale, a sense of grounding and softening. You can choose to stay in stillness here, working with your breath for as long as you need. And only when you feel ready to move on, you might reach down and help the legs back together. You can pause, or if you feel ready to, you might roll down to one side, just enough to push your props out of the way, and you can come back to lying down on the back. It might feel nice to take the feet wide, bring the knees in together. You might bring a hand to the belly and to the chest, and take a few deep breaths. As you feel ready, you might collect the knees into the chest, perhaps wrapping the arms around the shins and giving yourself a gentle rock side to side. You might take a knee in each hand and circle the hips a few times in each direction. And then you might bring the hands behind the knees and start to rock up and down the spine a few times, mindful not to put pressure on the neck. And from here, you can start to build up some momentum and eventually come up to find a seat. Your seat can be cross-legged or anything else you need it to be. We'll start to rotate from the base of the spine. You can move in a counterclockwise direction. You can keep the spine mostly upright, or if it feels okay, you can start to exaggerate the motion, maybe making the circles a little bigger. You might start to move with your breath. And perhaps as you're inhaling, you're circling to the left and to the back, and then as you're exhaling to the right and forward. Move with your breath at your pace and make the movement whatever you need it to be. And at the top of the next inhale, take a brief pause and then change direction. And you might start off with small circles once again. And as you're ready, exaggerate them or add on anything you need. Move with your breath at your pace. The last few circles this direction. And then slowly let the circles become a little shallower. And eventually come back up to your tall seat. And then pause for a moment. Let the sit bones feel heavy. Let the spine feel tall, the shoulders back and down. The back of the neck nice and long, maybe a slight tuck of the chin in towards the throat. And take a few deep, spacious breaths. And then when you feel ready to move again, you can spin the legs out behind you and come to a tabletop position. And you might keep the soft block near the top of the mat in case it's handy. With the knees roughly underneath the hips, we'll set up for puppy dog pose. So for this one, you can start to walk the hands out in front of you, starting to dip the chest, the forehead, maybe the chin towards the floor. And see how this feels. If you'd rather rest the head onto a soft block, then go for it. And there's also the option to bring the elbows down to the floor, the palms of the hands together, and then you can stay here. You could also bend the elbows to point the fingertips towards the ceiling. And play around with your stretch. Make sure it feels like a pain-free expression. If there is any pinching going on anywhere, then modify your shape. If you'd like a slightly deeper stretch, you could also walk the elbows a little closer towards one another and see how that feels for the shoulder blades. If the elbows are bent, you can release the hands back down towards the floor. And then very delicately, maybe coming onto the forearms, walking the hands in a little bit. And planting the hands to the floor, shifting the knees back, and you can lower all the way down to the belly. And take the hands a little wider apart, maybe on fingertips, or you can use palms flat. And press the toenails to the floor to feel the kneecaps lift. And with an inhale, lift the chest up, maybe lift the gaze. With your exhale, soften down. And keep going with your breath, inhaling to lift and exhaling to lower. You can always position the hands a little wider or maybe closer to the body, see what feels good for the shoulders. The last 3 rounds, nice and slow. Last one. As you soften down, take a pause. You might stack the palms underneath the forehead. It might feel nice to slide the left knee up towards the left. And take a few deep breaths here. You can re-extend the left leg and then switch sides, bending the right knee up towards the right. Extending the right leg long. Bringing the hands under the shoulders. Press yourself up to a tabletop position. And you could pause here for a few breaths if you like. Or if you're ready for downward facing dog, grip the finger pads into the floor, tuck the toes, lift the knees, and then press the hips up and back. It might feel nice to pedal out the legs a little bit, stretch out those calf muscles, the hamstrings, give the ankles a little movement. And check in with the shoulders here. Tailbone lifted, spine is downward, head is heavy. And keep the hands actively pressing the floor away to create a sense of stability. You can bend your knees as much as you need here. Let the head be heavy. From your downward facing dog, take a deep inhale through the nose and a deep sigh out the mouth. And again, inhale. Exhale. One more. Now inhale, bend the knees and look forward. And as you exhale, you can walk the feet towards the hands and come and find a forward fold at the top of the mat. And give your knees as much of a bend as you need to make this shape feel sustainable. You can let the arms dangle if you want to bring hands to blocks and maybe be in more of a halfway lift position. That can work too. Another option might be to bring hands to opposite elbows, adding a little weight to the spine. If you'd like a little movement, you can pedal the legs or gently sway the torso. Let the head be nice and heavy wherever you are, stillness or movement. If you have a bind, you can release it. And then slowly heel toe the feet a little wider apart. Gently point the toes out to an angle, and you can start to bend the knees. We'll come and find a squat. Any version of a squat. So if you want to make yourself a seat with your hard blocks, if you want to add something underneath the heels, then go for it. And the hands can stay on the floor the whole time. Otherwise, bring the hands to prayer. Notice as the elbows press the knees apart, you might create a little resistance with the knees, maybe for a sense of stability, to help the low back feel a little more grounded. Notice that length in the spine. Notice if the shoulders are creeping up towards the ears. See if you can keep them nice and soft. Always the option to close down the eyes. We're going to head up to standing, so if you'd rather come through a forward fold, then go for it. Otherwise, tone the belly, start to press the feet into the floor, and you can come up as quickly or as slowly as you like. As you arrive up, it might feel nice to reach the arms up overhead. If you feel at all lightheaded, you can always come partway down. Maybe pause for a few breaths. And then as you're ready, you can release your arms down and step the feet a little closer. And toes can point straight forward, maybe slightly outer end. See what your natural stance is. See what feels best for the hips here. You might lift and spread the toes a little bit and then lower them down, gently gripping the mat. Notice where your weight is. Is it more heels or toes? See if you can balance that out. As the feet gently press into the floor, find that slight rebound through the spine, maybe through this chest. Let the arms be nice and heavy. As you feel ready from here, we'll set up for a balanced pose. So if you'd like to be closer to a wall, then go for it. We'll ground down through the right foot and then bend the left knee, open the left knee towards the left, and you can stay right here for a tree pose, or you can connect the left foot to the inside of the right leg, wherever feels comfortable. If you're connecting at the knee, just make sure that that's not putting pressure there. See what you like to do with the arms, maybe out for balance. You can also hold the wall. Otherwise, maybe prayer or arms to the ceiling. Notice the relationship between the left foot and the right leg. And as the left foot presses into the right leg, imagine that you're pressing back with the right leg. See what that feels like. Notice what happens to the breath as well. Sometimes there's a tendency to hold the breath in a balanced pose. So if you notice that happening, see if you can deepen the breath, even if it's just a little bit. If the arms are lifted up, you might bring them down to prayer, and then release the foot, bring the knee back to center, and then we'll take a big step back with that left foot. Spin the left toes towards the left, and we'll set up a warrior two stance, bending into the right knee. You can lengthen or shorten the base however you need. Front foot mostly pointing towards the front, left foot mostly towards the left, and then arms can reach wide. Notice where the shoulders are relative to the hips. See if you can stack them right on top. And sometimes there might be a tendency to stick the bum back a little bit. So if you find that happening, imagine pulling the pubic bone towards the belly button. That might help stabilize your core. Gaze can be wherever you need it to be. From here, press down with the right foot to extend the right leg, and then reach forward with an inhale. With your exhale, you can hinge to find triangle. So right hand might be to a block, the shin, or the floor. And the left hand can stay at the hip, or you could reach towards the ceiling. Notice what the left shoulder is doing. If it starts to creep in towards the jaw, see if you can roll it nice and open. And take one last inhale here. And as you exhale, you can bring the left hand down, spin the right foot in, and we'll set up for a wide-legged fold. You can bring your prop with you. If you need to bring the feet a little closer, anything, go for it. I like to turn my feet in slightly. That works for my hips, but see what works for you. You can stay in a halfway lift if you want to pedal, maybe alternate bending one knee and then the other, see how that feels. And then eventually you can come and find your fold. Let the spine hang nice and heavy. You could bring the hands to the legs, to the floor, props, hips, and be wherever you need to be. You can slowly start to walk the hands back in and come to your halfway position. And now spin the left foot to face the back of the mat. You can start to walk your hands towards that left foot, come on to the right toes, and then lower the right knee to the floor in a lunge shape towards the back of the mat. And take a moment to set yourself up. You can pat the back knee or do whatever else you need here. And then when you're ready, you can bring one hand, then the other to that front thigh. See what it feels like as you lift the spine upright. You might feel a deep stretch through the front of that right leg. If this feels like plenty, you can stay right here. Otherwise, we'll add a twist in as well. You can take the right elbow to the outside of the left knee, and then you can stay here, maybe left hand behind you. Or if you want, you can bring the left hand onto the right. And as you press the palms, you might find a slightly deeper twist, maybe a little more space across the chest. Make sure you're still breathing in your twist. And if you want to power up the pose, there's also the option to tuck the back toes and lift the back knee. From your twist, you can unravel back to center, bring the fingertips to the floor, and then take a big step forward, and returning to a forward fold. And see what movement you need here. If you need to stretch anything out, then go for it. And then when you're ready, come and find any version of a forward fold. You might take a bind here as well. If you'd rather stay in a forward fold and come to a squat, then go for it. Otherwise, if you're coming with me to a squat, bring the feet a little wider, point the toes out, and then sink the hips. You can do exactly what you did the first round, or if there's a slightly different version, then go for it. Wherever you are, if you feel steady and want to close down your eyes, you may do so. And wherever you are, be with your breath. And from here, as you feel ready, any way you'd like to get there, you can start to think about your transition up to standing. Maybe pausing somewhere along the way, maybe reaching arms towards the ceiling, anything you need. And when you're ready, you can come and find your mountain pose, and feet roughly underneath the hips, gently pressing to the floor, spine nice and long, shoulders soft, chest proud, arms heavy. And from your mountain pose, take a scan through the body just to notice. You notice the flow of your breath. From your mountain pose, as you're ready, we'll set up for tree pose on the second side. So again, if you'd like to be closer to a wall, then go for it. This time balancing on that left foot. Notice the whole sole of the left foot pressing to the floor. Coming onto the right toes, and then spin the right knee towards the right. Again, you can stay here, you can connect the right foot anywhere to the inside of the left leg that feels okay for your body. Find that press of the left leg into the right foot, that sense of stability. Proud chest, soft shoulders, arms wherever you need them to be, or you can match whatever you did on the first side. Steady gaze to keep you steady. If the arms are lifted, you can bring them to prayer. Lifting the right knee to center, and then take a big step back with the right foot, spinning the right heel to the floor, and you can bend into the left knee, setting yourself up for warrior two on the second side. Left foot mostly forward, right foot mostly towards the right. And check in with the hips here, the spine, the low back, arms reaching, shoulders soft. As you're ready, you can extend the left leg towards straight. And then with an inhale, reach forward. With your exhale, hinge, and we'll find triangle. This side may need something a little different to the first, so feel free to play around with your props. If you notice the hips swinging out behind you towards the left, then see if you can bring them back in line with the feet. Right hand maybe to the right hip or up towards the ceiling. Again, mindful of what that right shoulder is doing if it's curling in. And breathe here. And take one last inhale, reach up. As you exhale, right hand comes down, left foot spins in. And you can come and find your wide-legged forward fold. Again, you might adjust the feet a little bit to see what feels good. Maybe feet turned in or out. Maybe staying in a halfway lift, or you can let the spine be heavy. An option here, if you'd like to add the bind behind the back, you can interlace the fingers there. You could also reach your fist up towards the ceiling. If you have the bind, you can let it go. And come to your halfway lift shape. Now spin the right foot towards the top of the mat, and you can walk the hands to join it, lifting the back heel, then lowering the back knee. And setting up a low lunge, check in here, see what support you might need. If things feel a little wobbly side to side, you can always take the right foot a little further to the right. And as you're ready, bring one hand and then the other onto that right thigh. Enjoy that stretch for the left hip flexor, the front line of the left leg. And you can stay right here. Again, the option for a twist. Left elbow to the outside of the right knee this time. And stay here. Or maybe right hand to left as you press the palms, a little more space across the chest. Notice the relationship between the left elbow and the right knee. See if you can create that slight resistance there for an extra sense of stability. And if you powered up on the first side and tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. And a little different as we come out. You can release the hands to the floor and then step back to downward facing dog. You're welcome to stay here, or you can drop the knees to the floor, hips towards the heels, and come and find any version of a child's pose. And from your child's pose, and press the hands to the floor, slowly pull the body through to come to lie down on the belly. And from here, we'll set up for a chest stretch. So you can take the left fingertips to the floor, and then option either to extend the right arm out towards the right, or you can do it in a cactus shape. So right elbow in line with the right shoulder. And then check in here to see, just move nice and slow. Make sure that the shoulder feels okay with this. As you start to press the left hand to the floor, you can start to open the chest towards the left. Maybe you stack the left leg on top of the right. If the head is hovering uncomfortably, you can also slide a prop in for a little extra support. The left leg can step behind, or you can hover it behind. Might deepen the stretch for the chest as well. And if you don't need the left hand for support here, you can also bring the left hand maybe for a half bind. Make sure the shoulder is okay with this stretch. And if you need to modify anything, then go for it. Otherwise, find your stillness here. And if the left hand is lifted, you can bring it back down to the floor. Gently roll yourself back down onto the belly. And from here, we'll set up for the second side. So this time, the left arm can either extend out towards the left, or you can cactus. And generally mirror what you did on the first side, but if you need to modify, then go for it. And right fingertips to the floor, and you can start to roll the chest open towards the right, maybe stacking right leg on left, or you can hover the leg behind or step it in front or behind. And some support for the head. And again, if it feels okay, you can release the right hand, maybe take it behind you for a half bind. And gently release the right hand back to the floor if it's lifted. You can slowly unravel the rest of the body as well. As you return to center, you can press up to a tabletop position. And then you might stay here for a few breaths, or you can tuck the toes, lift the knees, and come and find your downward facing dog. Take a moment to stabilize the hips and the shoulders. If you need a little movement here, then go for it. Otherwise, find your breath. From your downward facing dog, as you feel ready, take an inhale and lift the left leg up behind you. And then as you exhale, bring the left knee forward, place it down behind the left wrist, left foot over towards the right, and then lower the right knee, and we'll set up for a pigeon pose. If for any reason pigeon pose doesn't work, then feel free to thread the needle on the back. You might shift that right knee back a little bit, and then if it feels like the pelvis is floating, then you might bring a soft block under the left hip, just to help you feel a little more grounded. You can play around with the positioning of the left foot, so you can point the toes or flex. Depending on the angles, one might feel a little more comfortable than the other. And then if you have the bolster somewhere that you can reach it, you can also lay that across the front of the mat so that you can bring the elbows down onto it. Maybe to bring the floor a little closer. You could also rest the forehead if that's an option. You can place it lengthwise, maybe lay the spine. You can turn the head slightly and see what version of the shape feels the best for today. And you can find your stillness in it as you're ready. Make sure it feels like a pain-free expression. And if at any point the shape stops feeling comfortable or workable, you can back out. As you're ready, you can make your way out of the pose. And slowly coming back onto the hands. And tuck the back toes, bring the back knee a little closer. And then you might exit to tabletop and take a three-legged tabletop, or find your three-legged dog, sending the left leg up in the air behind you. Maybe taking some circles, or you can stack the hips right away. If you're stacking the hips, then equal pressure through the hands. Also the option to flip dog here, so if you feel ready for it for today, what you can do is start to look towards the bottom right of the mat and then pivot the right foot as you slowly start to lower the left foot down to the floor. Spin all 10 toes to point towards the back and then press down through that right hand as you start to open the chest up towards the ceiling any amount. Right hand stays pressing down, finger pads gripping the floor, make it nice and steady. And then maybe left hand to the chest as you gaze up towards the ceiling. Breathe here. If you'd like to stay for a few more breaths, go for it. And then when you're ready to come out, the way you came in, so slowly start to bring the left hand down. As you do so, lift the right leg up, spin the right toes back towards the top, and then step to your downward facing dog. And give your hips a little movement here, see what you need. And then you can pause and take about 8 breaths. You can do child's pose, down dog. You could flow or cat cow. Be wherever you need to be. When you feel ready, you can slowly make your way back to downward facing dog, and we'll set up for the second side. And take a moment in down dog to stabilize and find any movement that you need. And then from here, you can lift the right leg up behind you. And with an exhale, bring the right knee behind the right wrist, right foot over towards the left, lowering the left knee. And then you can walk that left knee back. And check in with the positioning of the foot, see what feels good. Maybe a prop under that right hip. And take your modifying shape if that would feel better for you. And then when you're ready, you can think about folding, maybe using your bolster for a little extra support or to bring the floor a little closer. You're eventually settling into your shape, being with your breath. As you feel ready to, slowly start to walk the chest up, the hands back in, and bring the back knee a little closer. And then think about your exit, either to a 3-legged tabletop or a 3-legged down dog. A little movement, a few circles for the hips, see what feels good, or lifting and stacking. And again, you can stay right here. If you'd like to come to flip dog, look towards the bottom left as you slowly lower the right foot down, start to pivot the left toes to point back. Eventually, all 10 toes pointing towards the back of the mat, both feet on the floor. And then notice the left arm. Really make it strong. Find that strength, the stability through the left shoulder, and start to turn the chest up towards the ceiling. Maybe the gaze will follow. Breathe here. You can stay for a few more breaths, or as you're ready, gently start to reverse it, spinning the left toes forward as you lower the right hand, the right leg lifts, and then come back to your downward facing dog. And choose down dog, child's pose, kneeling position, anywhere you need to be, and pause for a few breaths. Notice the body and the breath. And from wherever you are, as you're ready, you can make your way back to a kneeling shape. You can slide the hips off to one side, release the legs out in front. Maybe give the knees a little tap or the feet a little windshield wiper. And then you might like to have your bolster and your soft block nearby. We'll keep the legs extended forward, and you can elevate the hips a little bit. Make this feel a little more effortless for the spine. And then I'm going to take the bolster underneath the knees. You're welcome to have the legs extended for this, or you can mirror what I'm doing. And then check in. If this feels like a lot for the low back, you're welcome to stay upright. Otherwise, you might think about a fold. So hinging from the hips, starting with the belly, bringing it towards the thighs. And the arms can come along to follow. You can pause when you start to round, or if you like, you can let the head go, let it be nice and heavy, gently rounding the upper spine. If you are rounding, make sure you're not pulling with the arms. And you can always back out of the shape as well if you start to feel pinching or anything like that. Eventually settling into your shape and finding your stillness. If you'd like a little more time here, you can stay. Otherwise, slowly start to walk the hands back in. Use the support of the arms to slowly lift yourself up. It might feel nice to lean back on the hands, maybe wiggle the shoulders, the spine a little bit to release. If you were using a bolster, you can move it off to one side. And then from here, we'll bend the left knee, step the left foot to the outside of the right leg. You can take the left hand behind you, the right arm towards the ceiling. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, twist towards the left, and you can wrap the arm around the knee any way you like. Keep the spine nice and tall. If the floor is a little far away, you can bring a prop. And you might take the gaze over the left shoulder as well. And with an inhale breath, gently unravel yourself to center and take a counter twist over towards the right. And then returning to center, unwrap the left leg, and we'll set up for the second side. So this time, right knee bends, right hand behind, left arm towards the ceiling, deep inhale, and exhale, twist towards the right. And the side may need something a little different, so listen to your body if you need to modify. And again, you might take the gaze over the right shoulder. And with an inhale, gently come back to center. Maybe take your counter twist over towards the left. And then come back to midline, release the right leg, give the feet a little movement here. And then keeping your bolster nearby, you can come up off of your soft block. And then any way you like to get there, you can lower all the way down onto the back. And once you touch down, you can set yourself up and then bring the knees into the chest. You might take the arms around the shins, just like we did at the start. Give yourself a gentle rock side to side. And you can stay here, or you can reach through the knees, catch hold of feet, ankles, or shins, and come and find your happy baby. See if you can keep the low back grounded, even if the feet have to come down a little bit. And in your happy baby, again, you can be in stillness or maybe a gentle rock side to side. You can alternate bending and extending the legs or anything else you need here. And then gently release the feet as you feel ready. I'll invite you to bring the bolster so that it's underneath the knees, and then slowly extend your legs to find your Shavasana. Using the support of the bolster under the thighs might help the low back settle here. If you'd rather be in a butterfly shape, or even if you want to come back to the shape that we started with, you're welcome to. Any comfortable symmetrical pose for your rest. And take your time to set yourself up. Give yourself any movement that you need or any gentle stretch. And then when you're ready, come and find your stillness. Let the breath return to its natural flow. Let the body start to feel nice and heavy here. Gently start to deepen the breath once again. And giving yourself a little movement here, wiggling the fingers and the toes, maybe pedaling the feet and rotating the wrists. As your movements get larger, you might extend the arms up overhead and give yourself a full body stretch, maybe wiggling the hips, the shoulders. And then when you're ready, you can roll down to one side, wherever you have the most room, and take a pause there for a breath or two. And then supported by your hands, you can come up to find any comfortable seated position using any of the props that you have around. If you are sitting cross-legged, you might switch the cross of the legs to the slightly awkward side just to keep things even. Gently grounding whatever's touching the floor, gently lengthening the spine, shoulders back and down, hands wherever they need to be. Take that scan through of the body. And from here, you might connect the hands in at the chest and maybe bow the chin in towards the chest. And take a moment to thank yourself for your practice, and thank you for sharing your practice today. Namaste. And thank you for joining me for your Hatha practice. And my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy the rest of your week.